Hey Downers! From now till the end of the year, you can join the Downers Club and support the show for as little as $1 a month. As a club member, you'll get all of the bonus episodes that we do every single week and access to our exclusive Downers Club Facebook group. This is a limited time offer, so get in there before 2018 and check out all the fun we're having for just $1. For more information, check out tsidpod.com/support. The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
What's up, Downers? Welcome back to the least comfortable show on the web, The System is Down. My name is Dan Smots, and good golly, do I have a good discussion for you today. I just got off the phone with a man who, if there is an expert by any definition in conspiracies and false flag attacks, he is the guy. I am far from the first person to claim without hesitation that Ole Dammegard is not only a brilliant mind, but an expert in these topics based solely on his own research and findings. Hailing from Spain, Ole is also the first international guest that I've had on the show, but he has dedicated his entire life to exposing these corrupt attacks and conspiracies all over the globe. Now, even given the large time difference, Ole was gracious enough to give me far more of his time than either of us intended, so this is a longer episode than usual, and we even recorded a bonus hour where we dug into the JFK assassination, the documents that are supposed to be declassified on that topic within the next month, who the they are that are pulling the strings in conspiracies, the Illuminati card game, which is absolutely a real thing, and even what Alex Jones's role is in all of this, and so much more. For access to all of that bonus content, you can come join the Downers Club and help support the show, which is currently on sale for $1 a month. That's right. 4 quarters a month. That sale is going on up until the 1st of 2018. To get that, just head over to tsidpod.com/support. But whether it's this main discussion or the bonus episode, Ole Dammegard is definitely the guy to keep an eye on, whether you're into conspiracies or not. There's so much shady stuff around this, but in this episode, we focused primarily on this latest attack in the Las Vegas shooting at Mandalay Bay, and by the end, even my crazy conspiratorial mind was blown. But don't take my word for it. Let's get weird. My guest today is author, international speaker, former journalist, musician, and an investigator, and I don't use this term lightly, but I would say false flag expert, Ole Dammegard. Ole, how's it going?
It's going really good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I know that you've got to be swamped with these interviews right now with this new event that's coming out. Now, I say I don't use the term expert lightly because I've been actually criticized for using it too lightly before on people who don't do their research, just, people who just have a title. Tell us about you and your background. I mean, I would say that neither of us should really have to justify your credentials, but in this line of work, I mean, you have to be very upfront with people on your background and why they should listen to you. So tell us a little bit about your story.
First of all, I never try to push my opinion on anyone. So if people listen, great. If they don't listen, fine. I prefer, of course, if they do listen. I focused some 30 odd years on trying to find out what is going on in the world because I've been very confused. And I started out as a journalist on a small newspaper. It became a bigger newspaper. And then at the same time, I became almost obsessed with the JFK assassination. This was late 1970s. And that then took me into the world of the assassinations of Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King. Then the Swedish Prime Minister, Olof Palme, was shot in 1986. And at that time, I'd come to a point where I was blown away by what seemed to be one force behind these different assassinations. I had, up until then, I thought it was like very different attacks that they had, were not connected in any way or form. And then I started seeing a very clear pattern of how they were carried out, not exactly on a street level, but how the whole cover-up was being performed, how the investigation was part of the crime, how a patsy was being blamed for it, how the investigation was being followed up if needed with commissions that were seemingly only there to cover the whole thing up as well, followed by another commission, followed by another commission, until the population of that country just gave up and was bored to tears. So when the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister happened, I thought that, well, thank God I live in Sweden and I can trust the police and they're really going to look into it. And then after a few months, I started seeing the exact same pattern of how that one was carried out as well. It just absolutely blew my mind, because I thought, how is this possible that it can follow the exact same template that I had started sort of after thousands of hours? I started to sort of line up the parallels between these cases all the way, I must say, going more or less all the way back to the old Romans, how they carried out political top assassinations and how they lured the population into believing that it was the deed of a lone crazy individual. And it even came to a point where I started comparing the other cases with Olof Palme, the case of the Swedish Prime Minister. And I said, if what I am suspecting is correct, then by comparing the other, the major ones like JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and so on, I could compare, because they were like 23 years and 20 years earlier. So I could see what had happened. And so I could see, okay, in Sweden, this, and this has happened. If it follows the template, then the next thing will be boom. And 2 weeks after I predicted that for myself, that exact thing happened in Sweden. Absolutely blew my mind, because I thought, what the hell is going on in the state of Sweden? I mean, horrendous, because then that would mean as well that the same forces were active in Sweden, and where the government or sources, core groups or rogue elements in the intelligence services, in the government, in the police forces, were playing with the same players or the same very brutal forces. I just felt I need to do something. So I quit my job. I moved to Stockholm, and I spent the next about 12 years there doing everything I could to expose what actually happened there, but in a very discreet way, because it didn't take long for me to see that people have a very very strong tendency to suddenly die very young, or get suicided, or found drowned in their bathtub or something, if they start digging too deep into these things. And so these, I came to Stockholm. I looked up, there was a small little group of civilians, retired former police officers, lawyers, you name it, taxmen, concerned citizens that were just very, very worried about what was going on, because it was so obvious once we started looking into it that there was a massive cover-up going on, and that the one that was being blamed for it were totally innocent. And I went up there, and those years I was there turned into almost like a cheap B movie, where I started tracking down foreign agents. I found in small towns, like car mechanic in one little small town, where a South African agent that had been involved in several assassinations, both in Paris and also in Sweden. And I tracked down and found most of the people involved in the assassination itself, both in Sweden and abroad. And so very scary experiences, because if you are Mr. Nobody and you start getting in touch with these people, if you're anonymous, it is very, very easy to get terminated. And I had, unfortunately, 2 friends who died in mysterious ways, and I had a visit at home as well. and it freaked me out. I
Really?
mean, very scary. And it ended up with me deciding to leave Sweden, so I moved to Spain, and I've been here since the year 2000.
Wow. So what do you have going on right now? Like with the Las Vegas investigation and all that?
I want to say that for many years I was just looking into top of political assassinations, but then that led me into the world of false flag operations, and I've spent many years now. As soon as something happens, I try to go there on location, even when the operation is still ongoing. Sometimes bring in a friend as an undercover photographer and so on. So I've been on location on more or less all location here in Europe where these attacks have allegedly taken place. I've also been to several places in the US where these assassination and terror attacks have happened and so on. So I've come to I believe, quite a good understanding of how they are carried out, and also the way they think and how they deliberately leave clues in the evidence, which is something I couldn't believe to start with. But in late, I think it was 2014, I was being informed by an insider that they actually do that on purpose, because of the way this is what he said, the way they interpret the law of karma is that if they inform us, even in subtle ways, about what they're going to do, and we do not react, then the bad karma will be on our shoulders, not theirs. So they leave clues there, and from then on, as soon as one of these things have happened, I've just been diving into the evidence, trying to find where is the clue. I know it's here somewhere. It's just a matter of finding it. So, but this has also done that I predicted, I believe, around 10 now on international radio up to 1 month before they actually happened.
Right. So you're not, I mean, when somebody hears conspiracy theorists, they automatically assume that they're a guy in their basement on YouTube. I mean, you're devoting your life to this and actually exposing these things, and you take it very seriously. That's fantastic.
I tell you, not overdoing it. I'm risking my life. I received death threats. I've been, it is not, it's one thing to sit and like things on Facebook.
Right.
It's another one when you stand face to face with these individuals. I tell you, my own experience, it's scary to say the least. It
Sure.
is not a comfortable situation to be in, or risking your family's lives, not easy I tell you, I've got kids and a wife and so on, and I feel sometimes what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Because it is like being in a minefield. It's one thing if you're just reading or making up your own stuff or speaking to friends. It's another thing if you really go for it. And I've devoted my life to this whole thing. So. But I'm happy to do it. I've chosen to do it, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But I try to do it in a non-violent and non-aggressive way, just trying to show what the proof, the evidence, what it's actually showing. And the term that you just mentioned, conspiracy theorist, that is actually a CIA term.
Right.
That was created because they were partly involved in the assassination of JFK, and it was created to use against people like you and me who were just there asking critical questions, saying, listen, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell is this? And boom, out came conspiracy theories.
Right.
Because this is where, as soon as you say theory or theorist, there's a doubt, and then you can be dismissed as a tinfoil hat or somebody sitting in the basement playing with their belly button and making up all kinds of fantasies. But the thing is, I'm not into theories at all. I'm looking for the fact. It's like forensic. It's like being a forensic detective, I would say, more or less, more than into sitting debating about theories.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fantastic. And yeah, let's get into this attack with Las Vegas and the single shooter, and just give what you've witnessed from then till now, because I mean it's only been a couple weeks now, and I've listened to you talk on a couple other shows. Just from what you've witnessed and what you've dug into, where are we at this point?
I think this one is a very tricky one. I think it's made up a bit like an ambush for people like myself. And I believe that it's a combination of different things to mix it up, stir it up, and make total confusion out of everything. Also, as a diversion, because they're trying to stir up so many things at the moment to make us totally out of balance and confused, not being able to focus on anything. So this is why I think it's a mix of different things. So we need to step careful or tread carefully, step by step when we go into this, because there are traps involved. And you will also see that there's a lot of disinformation being spread out there, where they keep changing the timeline, they keep changing the so-called facts, they keep changing everything. And so, but to be able to understand it, if it's okay if I just give a broader picture of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And then we go into the details. This term false flag operation is easily misunderstood by many. They think that it's a question of if it was a false flag, then nobody died. That is absolutely not true. If it's a false flag, it's a psyop. It's an old naval term where in the old days, if you wanted to get away with conquering, murder, slaughtering a nation, what you did, you just put the enemy's flag on one of your own ships, then let that ship attack yourself, and then you would be the victim. And you would just defend yourself by invading, conquer, and plunder, rape and plunder. So it's a psyop. And it's very important to understand what that is, because we see it being played out so many times, these false flags. There's another old Roman tactic that they also use repeatedly, problem, reaction, solution. The elite few, I would say the ones behind the so-called New World Order, secretly create a problem, an alleged bomb attack, a terror attack, mass shooting, virus scare, financial crash. Normally, these are the ones that are trendy at the moment. And the reason they create these ones are to freak us out, to freak normal people out, so that we will turn towards the ones that we believe are there to protect us, not understanding that they are actually the ones doing it to us. Right. And then we say, please, we need protection. And they will then say, well, the only way we can protect you is, and boom, in comes the solution. And the solution we would never, ever have accepted had it not been for the problem, reaction, solution. So in Europe, there are all of these terror attacks with bombs, because mass shootings wouldn't be very efficient here in Europe because we don't have weapons. Right. So they're trying to say, terrorists are the problem, so mass surveillance, body scanners, militarized police, robocops, that is the solution. Giving up your civil rights, the human rights, all of that. In the States, it's very similar, but in the States, they aim for to make the weapons the problem, so that it would be problem, reaction, solution. Mass shooting, oh my God, we need protection. Well, the solution is give up your guns. Mm-hmm. So they need these. Bombs won't do it in the U.S. So it's all the time weapons.
Right.
And the reason why in all these operations there is a lone crazy guy, a lone wolf, or a lone fanatic, is that then by law they don't have to look upon it as a conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Conspiracy is when two or more individuals are involved in planning criminal activities. Okay, so that's the only thing it means. It actually means breathing together. Right. But the reason alone is then by law, no conspiracy, very easily solved, especially if this guy dies on location, is suicided, or just happens to be shot or falls out of the window. Case closed, thank you and goodbye. And the reason why they want him crazy or fanatic is then there were no motive. Absolutely no motive. He was just crazy, and he just started shooting because he was crazy, or fanatic. Then they can blame it on the religion. And then once again, you don't have to look into the motive. What was the reason? So we go to Las Vegas, and always you have to look at cui bono, who benefits. Taking any homicide detective, you ask them, when they look into a case, who benefits? Is it the husband? Is it the butler? Who benefits from whatever is done?
Right.
Okay, so the official story is that this 64-year-old guy, Stephen Paddock, with no criminal background really, and no experience with weapons, nothing really, for some reason, no motive whatsoever, just a lone wolf, decided, I'm going to do the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, as you do when you wake up a bad day, you know. So what he did was he went out and he purchased. I mean, it keeps differing, but up to 34 very, very, heavy guns, military-style weapons, automatic, fully, hollow point, Rambo-style weapons. And then he goes to Las Vegas. He was stationed there, but this guy, very strange. He owned had like 30 different properties. He had 2 airplanes that were connected to companies I'm going to come back to. And so he went to the Mandalay Hotel, and the Mandalay Hotel has metal scanners, like body scanners, metal detectors in the reception, because they don't want people with guns there. And also we are in Las Vegas, who is the mob city in the US. I mean, it's built on mob money. It's famous for big money. So what they fear all the time are crimes or other, heists or whatever. That is the thing. So there are cameras everywhere, except in the reception of the Mandalay Hotel. Right. Because there used to be, but once again, when these type of things happen, every single time, one of the key things you will see is not what works, but what does not work. Right. That is what gives it away. And here, there are no CCTV footage from the strip going through Las Vegas, as far as I know, of anything. There's no CCTV cameras in what we call the killing field, where all of these people have been shot. No reason, only 22,000 people there, where you normally have security things with crowd control, what would happen if a panic or a stampede, whatever, you have security cameras there. Unfortunately, nothing of that worked. Of course. And the metal detectors in the reception did not work. He was able to carry in these 34 different weapons without being detected. And these are heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff. 64 years old. He managed to get it up on the 32nd floor, where he's got a hotel room. He stayed there for a few days. He managed to get them up there on scene. There's no footage of him in the reception, in the elevator, in the staircases, right. And they say no, but he used the service elevator. You know,
even like your everyday little rinky-dink hotel has at least a camera in the lobby, and you're telling me that they didn't have anything functioning that day?
Your local 7-Eleven shop has it. Right. Your gas station has it. But here it's just one of these super hotels in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, maybe the batteries ran out. I don't know. But here they did not work. Right. Okay. So, and then they say, well, he used the staff elevator. So are you telling me that they trust their staff so much more than the clients of the hotel that they would not have the cameras there? Right. Well, apparently, because he wasn't filmed there either. So he managed to get all these weapons up, including ammo. This is heavy stuff. He would have been very sweaty, going up and down, 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 up and down for 34 guns, the size that we're being told, with all the ammo. But he managed to do that pretty well going. So he gets in there, and he's never, according to people who says they've known him or his family members, he's never been shooting. But here he then calculates on a note paper when the SWAT team or the police, the first people that enters into the room afterwards, they say that there were what people thought were sort of like a goodbye cruel world note. But what the police says were on this paper and pen that were lying next to the body when he had shot himself was calculations of the distance for the accuracy of this weapon. So for somebody who doesn't know anything about weapons, that's pretty amazing.
And somebody who just snapped and lost his mind, he did an awful lot of preparations here.
Well, maybe he read up on the internet or was reading Reader's Digest or something like that and got some good tips about how to. Anyway, so what he decided to was knock out 2 windows, and this Mandalay hotel has if I've been informed correctly by people working there, there is a security system on the window. So if a window is cracked, I mean, these are like 30, I don't know how many floors, but a lot. So if a window is cracked, people can fall out, and in the States, they can get sued.
Right.
So, and they don't want that. And people are doing a lot of scams with suing companies like that. So they're very afraid of it. So they have a special system that if a window is cracked, there's an alarm signal going down into the office of the security personnel and so on in the hotel. Well, this guy managed to knock out 2 windows without anyone noticing in his room and in the suite. So at the same time, there's a concert going on with a country star called Jason Aldean,
right.
And it said that there were 22,000 people in the crowd. Unfortunately, some 21,990 forgot their cell phones at home this evening because it was only a rock concert and a big thing for them, but all of them forgot their cell phones because no one has taken any photo hardly. I mean, there's a handful of very high quality photos of people running around.
Right.
And there's a few videos, but it's a handful. You go on Google Images, you search on there should have been thousands.
Right.
There should have been thousands. Where are they? But this lone shooter was lucky this day because nobody was really paying attention.
Well, that brings up another point, if I can interject here.
Please go.
I've dug into many conspiracies through YouTube as a big resource in the past, and maybe you've seen some of this as well, but trying to look into this, like typically if you type in blank conspiracy, it'll come up with pages and pages of people posting immediately their thoughts and all that. On this one in particular, it seems like it's pretty difficult to even find out a lot of this stuff. It seems almost like YouTube is blocking, and I've heard a couple of reports from different YouTubers that some of their stuff is getting pulled or blocked because they're saying that it's insensitive content because they're talking about this type of thing. Have you witnessed any of that, or do you think that that is related?
Have I witnessed this? I'm surrounded by it.
Right.
I'm surrounded by it. It's like welcome to 1984. I have a handful of researchers that are good friends of mine that have all got their YouTube accounts shut down. Some of them have to restart a new channel like 7, 8 times.
Wow.
And before they received like warnings saying you've stepped over the line. If you do not behave properly, your account will be terminated.
Right.
That then turned into them terminating an account with videos that were marked private. Mm-hmm. They were not even available for public, and the account just got shut down.
Right.
And then yet a few days ago, a friend of mine got his account shut down again. And do you know the message? I can send it to you afterwards. This is from YouTube. They say, members of the YouTube community have expressed concern for your well-being. We care about you! Exclamation point.
Nice
We
thing.
encourage you to take advantage of the following resources. Within the United States, call this number, blah, 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 blah. The trained counselors of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline are available 24/7. Then there's another one. They say here you can also get trained crisis counselor through Crisis Text Line Anonymous, free emotional support 24/7. Or please visit selfinjury.com. Alternatives and educational resources committed to helping end self-injurious behavior. Or also you can, there's another one about self-injury to those who self-injure, those who have recovered, and those who want to help. So here we have people who are raising questions, just saying, I'm very sorry, Mr. Officer of the government, or whoever you are.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, if somebody else than you in an official position would be telling things like this to me, I would say right out, you're a liar. That is absolutely not true. But here I'm raising questions. Please answer them. And what are you met with? Mm-hmm. If you're suicidal, here it comes again. Suicidal or mental illness, that is what they say. as soon as you raise questions.
Right.
So,
If you're big into conspiracy stuff and in the line of work that you're in, it almost sounds like a threat. You might, we're afraid that you might end up dead and it'll be
but
suicide.
this is exactly it. You can, I mean, you can interpret the way you want, but this is what I feel, you know, and this is why sometimes during all of these years when sometimes when I've really taken a big step forward, you know, exposing some major players, which has been very scary for me. On these shows, I've always said, I'm not suicidal. I'm not depressed. My car has just been checked. My heart is super fine. You know, I'm feeling great, and I have plenty of plans ahead. Just to mark, you know, saying, don't even think of it, because they love suicides.
Right.
They love suicides or stuffing you away in some mental institution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, I bring up the YouTube thing just because you said that there's an extreme lack of video, which I've seen only a handful as well. I'm wondering if you think that they are being blocked when they upload it, and that's why we can't find more of those, or what the deal is. Because even you go to any concert that has multiple thousands of people, there's going to be videos of the concert, the entire thing, put up online the next day, even if there isn't a mass shooting. So
I totally agree with you. So it's like, what is going on here? How is it possible that they can do that? And it's very confusing. I'm still not sure. What I do know is that during the last years, or it's actually been going on for a long time, is that the cell phone network will be shut down. The phone lines will be shut down at that time. It happened even back when JFK was assassinated. For 1 solid hour, the whole nationwide telephone system was shut down for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. And afterward, it said same with 9/11 and other areas like Boston bombing around the area and afterward it said, yeah, but it was because like everybody tried to call home and you know, or are you okay, or have you heard, or and so on. But it's absolutely not. It's part of the operation. They shut it down so that they can control the information flow. And for them, it's crucial, especially the first 15 minutes when they need to pump their version out there first, because then they can shut down the rest over time. But when it comes to these YouTube things, what I do is almost like around the clock when these things happen. It download everything, the official story, alternative versions, articles, you name it, just download it, because right after these operations happen, there is a cleanup team that goes in and just starts, you know, like it's almost like shooting geese with a shotgun, you know, boom, 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 shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. So you need to be right on top of it, and you will see if you go back like the day after and look for the same video, many times it's gone. Right. And it said, taken down by the user or something like that, or just terminated because I don't know what it is they call it, that you're harassing or something like that. But these videos have nothing to do with harassment. Right. But they do question people as possible crisis actors sometimes. They question interviews, official interviews. They question the official timeline and so on. And boom, get shut down.
Right. And for you, I'm sure this is like, here we go again. Every time you hear about something, same thing. So, I mean, it's fantastic that you're gathering this stuff up, because I've watched multiple videos now where they're like, I wanted to reference this video that I saw that was an interview with a person, but I can't seem to find that video anymore. And, you know, most of us, it takes a little while to jump on these things, but it's nice to have you there to, you know, start gathering right away.
No, but you know, I saw this today. There was one YouTuber who had made a video about Las Vegas, and it was uploaded, and I think there was about 8,000 views or something like that, and people were commenting and stuff. And then the next day when he went back into and just wanted to check the comments, it was gone. Wow. And then when he looked into his account, it just took video failed to upload. But the thing was that 8,000 people had already seen it and commented it. How can it fail to upload?
Right. Yeah, some crazy stuff going on. Now, I interrupted you. You were telling the story, and we got off on a little bit of a tangent there. If you want to jump back into that,
No, I just wanted to mention also, I did a webinar the other night about the Las Vegas one, where and there were, I don't know, but the webinar was packed, and everything was going great. It was on Zoom, the platform Zoom,
Yeah.
and suddenly I started seeing somebody was writing on the screen. I was doing a share screen. Somebody was writing on my screen, like all the, really foul words and stuff across the screen while I was sitting talking with everybody watching.
Really?
It was bizarre. And then suddenly my microphone got muted and my camera as well.
Wow.
And
so everybody else was. I'm not that familiar with Zoom. They were witnessing it as you're writing on your screen these foul words that is making
they
you
were
look
watching.
like
They were watching it. I was commenting it,
Right.
and it's sort of like, okay, here we have somebody here. Not, I don't know if this individual was invited or not, but I don't know how they do it. I would suggest instead get a life and stop messing with us, because
Right.
you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because we're all trying to liberate all of us, not. And people working for these sources, they think that they're sort of like, safe, but they're not. They're just tools being used.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so maybe we should get back to Las Vegas.
Sure.
So this individual, then he finally had enough, and he knocked out these windows. It was in the middle of the concert, and so he aimed out. But just before he started shooting, he heard somebody in the corridor. He had placed cameras in his room, and also on the what do you call it, the keyhole? No, what do you call this thing you can look through the door
scope.
with?
Oh, on the door, like a peephole.
The peephole, he had put a camera there as well. I mean, what can you see there? Another eye or something like that? But that's the official story. So anyway, there were two guards in the corridor that was walking by. There was some reason, I'm not really sure. I think there was some problem with the elevator or something, but they were walking in the corridor outside. So he came out and he fired officially 200 rounds after these two guys, hit one of them in the leg. His name is Jesus Colom, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. This security guard fired 200 rounds and
hit him
the
once.
others. That's pretty good, but awful shooting, because, I mean, with 200 rounds, you should be able to hit something at least. And there are no signs, there are no photos of these bullet holes where the holes found. I mean, these bullets with these heavy caliber guns would have gone straight through some of the walls and maybe injured other people in other hotel rooms and so on. But we don't hear anything about that.
Right.
Instead, the guard that was not wounded, he called the police with his walkie-talkie and said, "We have a shooting incident on the 32nd floor around this and this room." Okay, so after that, once the shooting started, it took 72 minutes for the police to locate where the shooter was.
Right.
After having been informed right away by the security guard that it was on the 32nd floor. That is 1 hour and 12 minutes while people are being slaughtered.
Right.
And then afterward, they're applauding the first responders on how incredible they were.
Right.
Is that good police work to be able to get there in 72 minutes?
For me, in small town Aledo, if it took them that long to find a guy who was called in either before or right after the shooting, if it takes you that long, you should not be applauded for it. I'm sorry.
You would be fired. You was out of the door, never to be seen again. I mean,
right. Which have they?
No.
I know they've kind of gone back and forth. Is the official story now that this security guard incident happened 6 minutes before the shooting, or it happened in the middle of the shooting? I know it's been a little bit of both.
It happened. According to the interview with the other security guard, it happened right before he started shooting down into the crowd.
Right.
So that would be the perfect warning, so that the police could have been able to get up there and stop it. You know, maybe perhaps even he started shooting, but it took 72 minutes. Mm-hmm. Then it turns out that this security guard, Jesus, was not employed there. He was employed, as far as I know, the very day very day before by the CEO of MGM, and then he disappeared. And then the other guy who was giving interviews, as far as I know, also he just disappeared as well. Getting freaked out or having said too much and so on.
Yeah, that's even news to me. I've been trying to dig into this stuff, but like I said, it keeps going in circles and showing up and disappearing, all the information, so it's hard to keep up with.
Then you have, it is said that he was then firing down from this window. I mean, it's quite a long distance. We're talking, I think, about 1,100, what is that in yards?
No, I think it was about 1,100 feet, wasn't it?
At least it's quite a distance.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And one of the things you will see is, like, in that distance, it said that he shot, some people say, for 30 minutes straight. That is not what we hear when we see the videos and so on. Then at the press conference, the police, there's a lot of numerology and very strange things going on in the background in these operations. Right. He said the shooting took between 9 and 11 minutes. That was the first comment.
Which is not a normal time frame for anything.
Why wouldn't you say approximately 10 minutes or something like that?
Or between 9 and 10.
9 and 11 minutes.
Right.
So then you have that, if you're shooting at that distance, we have several people that have been said to have been hit. There's one guy who he said he was hit 3 times in the chest, and the people around him were hit as well. To be able to fire more than one shot, to hit within like a decimeter in that distance,
right.
We're talking, I mean, you can't, it's side with a sniper rifle. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. Just to hit people standing next to each other with an automatic weapon that is moving while you're shooting. It's like the odds are astronomical to do that.
Right.
Then you have people are pointing at this. They say the muzzle flame. What is it called? The muzzle flash.
Muzzle flash. Yeah.
Yeah, from the window. Well, the ones we see is not from the 32nd floor. What we see is there's one appearing at what seems to be the 10th floor. There's another one on the 4th floor. Mm-hmm. But lights cannot be trusted, because there's one video that a woman took before during the concert, about 15 minutes before the shooting started, and she's just panning over the stage, and she just happens to pan across the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And there you can see this strobo light going on 15 minutes before, mm-hmm. but there's no shooting, it's only the light. And then afterwards there's a guy being interviewed, I think his name is Brian Claypool, and in the background, this is like way after the shooting, but when he's standing there with his the microphone in his hand, and to the right of him, you see the hotel, and there's a strobo light there as well, but this is way after the shooting itself. Mm-hmm. So these things can not be trusted, and this is where I'm talking about. This is a trap. We need to be very careful here, because also if we go into the footage that are actually there, one thing that if this is a false flag operation, a staged event, then one thing that is always there, always, is the drill. There is a drill, a security drill on location, right. Sometime before this event, and often just the day before or 2 days before. And the reason I've found over all of these years is that the drill is there for them, the people behind the operation, to be able to get in position, get everything sorted and placed where it should be, vehicles parked, crisis actors in position, pyrotechnics, bombs, explosives. I mean, sometimes these are real explosives, real killings and so on. So you need military personnel in position, snipers, catering, makeup facilities if that is needed, and so on. So that is one thing you will always see, this drill. And this is why I always say when there is a drill somewhere, please be aware of that this could be a possible upcoming false flag attack or real attack. So was there a drill here? Yes, there was. There was a Homeland Security drill and also an active shooter drill just the day before. And in addition, what I always look out for are so-called grip trucks that are used at normal film sets. In Europe, they're more or less always white, anonymous-looking trucks. And inside them, once you open them up, they have everything from electric equipment. Some of them have like built-in makeup studios inside, or wardrobes, or pyrotechnics, whatever is needed. They have it. So it can be a long line of trucks depending on the size of the event. But when the U.S. military do these things, like military exercises where they need to work on what looks like real casualties, with blown off legs, and where they use amputee actors and so on, they use military trucks, but so-called moulage trucks. And at this exact point, there are two made big exact type these trucks on location just on the other side of the street to where all of these people have been killed. I mean, what are the chances? Big military trucks in Las Vegas.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to go and play a bit in the casino. I'll just take the truck. Do you mind, darling? I mean, these are massive big trucks, just like everything is big in the US, they are massive.
Right. So, and with these drills that you're talking about, they're so telling. It's not like there's a drill going on that is completely unrelated. It's always, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you've dug into the stuff way more than I have, but on 9/11 they had all the planes doing drills for if there were a terrorist attack to hijack a plane, and around Sandy Hook they had drills for, if there was a school shooting. Like it's like so telling right before every single time, it seems like.
Do you know, Dan, one of the things that I've tried to focus on, and I've done I don't know how many hundreds of interviews, are showing the ingredients, not going in so much in detail on every single event all the time, but what are the ingredients in these operations? Because it's the same theme, the same participants, the same layout, the same PSYOP, the same propaganda part, and all of it, even product placement, they use that as well, commercial things inside the whole thing. So the drill is extremely important, and it was there. The grip trucks in the form of these moulage trucks were there. The lone crazy guy was there. All the CCTV cameras were there, turned off.
Right.
And you also have one of the things, a very strange thing, is that when real things happen, you have a number of dead and a number of wounded.
Right.
And then over the years that, the days that follow such an event or an accident or whatever, what could happen is that the number of dead goes up because some of the injured were so severely injured that they died. So the number of dead will go up and the number of wounded will go down. But here we see always more or less the exact opposite thing, is that sometimes the number of dead goes down. I mean, so hallelujah, resurrection, here we come. And then the number of wounded just starts skyrocketing. So that even several weeks afterwards, the numbers still go up. So are these people who have gone home and stayed home for a couple of weeks, and then suddenly they look themselves in the mirror and say, oh my God, I've got a bullet hole here. I need to look up the hospital because apparently I was wounded. Didn't notice, but what can you do? Right. How is that possible? But here we have the exact same thing. And once the real number, you can hear the sheriff at the press conference in the beginning, he says the number we are given, he doesn't say the number of individuals shot. Right. He says the number we're given is 58. First there was 59 dead, right, including the shooter. Then it went down to 58. So one Well, he went. He just stood up, took his bed, and walked away. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. And then it was 515 wounded, but yesterday it was 527. And after the alleged truck attack in Nice, first, the official story to start with was 84 dead and 202 wounded hit by this truck, a big white truck that managed to hit all of these people without causing one single drop of blood. Pretty amazing. Right. Anyway, 1 week later, it was 303 wounded. And then 1 week even later than that, it was 404. Wow. And then now I have a fellow researcher in France that says that following this whole thing, between 5,000 and 6,000 people have disappeared in the outskirts of this operation.
Wow.
What is going on?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
what is the reason for that, do you think? Like, why do they keep changing the numbers?
For one thing is to confuse, it's like painting with watercolors on a water surface. It just keeps floating around and it keeps you confused, and it keeps somebody like myself much more easier to shoot down and say, well, he didn't get his facts right now, did he?
Right.
Because it was 520. No, it was 514.
But when the mainstream media does it, it's totally fine. We don't care.
But I just say this is one of the things they do. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Like in the mass shooting in Norway, there were even more casualties than here. The official story was 89 dead. Mm-hmm. Teenagers shot and killed both in Oslo and then on this island. Okay, so 89. 2 weeks later, it went down to 69. And then it went up to 77.
Wow.
I mean, really, when you are a forensic detective or a pathologist or a doctor on location or in the morgue, wouldn't you say that one is definitely not moving anymore? Mm-hmm. No breathing. That's one. That one, not breathing either. Two. Mm-hmm. And then you just add them up. How can you make a mistake from 89 down to 77? Mm-hmm.
But somebody's doing a terrible job.
Yep, that is so true. And after that mass shooting, there were some forensic detectives that, for police, the team, they left the island where all of these teenagers had been shot and said, oh my God, it's so awful. The crime scene is so awful. Mm-hmm. We need to burn all the evidence.
All right. Sounds a little like 9/11 to me. Let's clean this up quicker than any crime scene we've ever seen.
But Dan, this is exactly it. The team that is sent in there to gather forensic evidence are actually the cleaners.
Right.
They clean it up and then they place evidence pointing towards the patsy. That's their task. Get rid of all real evidence and aim it at the patsy so that whatever that nobody will have the chance to look at anything else. It would be the patsy, the patsy, the patsy, the patsy, the patsy, the patsy. Right. And that's it. Don't ask questions. Just shut up. And then if someone like myself keep asking questions, well, we just have to deal with that guy. Right. And this is where it gets scary.
Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay. Now, one thing in this Las Vegas shooting, to me, the creepiest thing I've seen is the guy who is filming the show, and then you hear gunshots in the background, then he, pans around a little bit, and you see a couple people go down, and then he filmed Jason Aldean running off the stage. He runs off the stage, and the stage goes black, but the stage lights shine a big bright light on the audience. There's no announcement like, hey, there's been shots fired, evacuate and seek cover immediately. That nobody feels the need to say that, but they shine a big bright light on the audience, which lights it up. Almost seems like they're, making the target a little bit easier. It was just really creepy and bizarre.
Is that a normal way to do? I mean, in a situation like that, is that because you're concerned that people should see where they can run and hide?
Right.
Wouldn't it be better to shut down the light, and get people out there?
Right.
Just like you say, but this is what we see when these operations are going on. And there is, I don't have a lot of heroes, but one of them was a Lieutenant Colonel Fletcher Prouty. He used to work in the Pentagon. He's the guy that is called Mr. X in the JFK movie. Incredible human being who really stood up. I mean, he was doing a lot of false flags during his career, but then after the JFK assassination, that he was, they tried to get rid of him, send him to the South Pole with a group of people to get him out because they knew he was just too honest. And he was the guy who was then on New Zealand. He discovered, with a timeline that the whole official story was already out there, but the time difference. Oswald wasn't even arrested in Dallas, and still the New Zealand newspapers already had the whole story, one of these things. Mm-hmm. And what he said was, don't look so much as what is working the way it should, but what is not is what gives it away. Mm-hmm. And this, once again, is that normal behavior to just turn a spotlight right on the people being shot at?
Right.
Or is that there to make good footage? Is it for the... But this is where it gets weird here, because please be aware that during the drill, I would highly suggest that it is during the drill that these high-quality photos are taken, the images of terror that will then be spread on international media, This is where the photographers have plenty of time to retake or get the lighting set and everything without being in any danger themselves at all.
Right.
Then you will also see that in these photos, there are very few individuals. You say there were 22,000, but the photos, when you look at them, there's only a handful of people all the time.
Right.
Somebody is taking a body in a wheelbarrow. I mean, as you do.
Where did they get a wheelbarrow?
Exactly. No, but they're all over the place in Las Vegas, right. If you didn't know.
They do a lot of farming.
Some other people are helping victims, wheeling them on office chairs. It looks like they're being carried on stretchers. No, they're on office chairs, right, being pushed around. You see photos of the police. There's one photo where there's like 5 or 6 people, police officers, standing around a police car with rifles and lying down. It's very dramatic. And then you got 2 normal civilians standing talking in their cell phones next to the car.
Right.
But this is also where we have this thing with them putting it out there in plain sight. They need to make it obvious, though subtle, that it's their operation. But it's for us then to accept or not.
Right.
So some of these are absolutely there to be right in our face, maybe also to check, who is awake enough to see it, and so that we can target that individual by following him on social media and so on. And but there is also, they will take video footage during the drill. That will then this video footage will then be blended with live stream footage from the event when it goes down. So this is where it gets really tricky, because what is real and what isn't. And if you look at a lot of the footage, the only thing that gives it away from being an alleged terror attack is that you hear the shooting. But in some of these videos, you will see people starting running before the shots are fired. Mm. So I would very much say that don't trust the sound. Very easy to add, And then you have also what I call the catwalk of terror. After all of these events, there's always somebody walking with a cell phone vertical among the victims, walking up and down among the victims, just giving the impression of, oh my God, this is horrific. But what do you actually see? These videos are normally very blurred. You don't see any faces. You don't really see anything. You don't see wounded surrounded by medical staff or something. You will see other civilians kneeling next to them and taking care of them. So this footage normally doesn't say anything. And also, if there is a photo of the patsy, it will be CCTV footage that worked apparently that day when he just happened to walk underneath it, but super blurry. So it's just like, but he will look very Muslim for sure. He will have sort of like an Palestinian shawl or something like that, or a big shotgun underneath his jacket, poorly hidden. But the camera was so good that it actually took a photo of him.
Right.
But it will only be
saying that
one
about
you will
this
never
guy,
see.
or like generally when they try and blame it on terrorist attacks?
This is general, because this time there's no footage whatsoever.
Right. Okay.
Then you have, this is also, there's one video of a guy doing exactly that, the catwalk of terror, as I call it. This time, sharp images, but you've got this strange individual that are walking around, walking up to 2 or 3 different victims. And what he does is he pulls up the clothes and says, no entry wound, no exit wound. Going to the next one. No entry wound, no exit wound. Going to the next one. No entry wound, no exit. As you do if somebody has just been shot in front of your eyes.
Right.
I would say absolutely not. Very bizarre behavior and part of the drill. Part of the drill. And also, what is important to understand is that nowadays you can rent whatever you want for these type of operation. There is a company called Crowds on Demand that were actually having apparently a gathering in Las Vegas. They also had in Charlotte, not far from Charlottesville.
Real quick,
when that attack
not to cut you off, but real quick, before you get into that, I think this is an extremely important thing that you're about to say here. I've heard you talk about it in other interviews, but whenever I talk to skeptics on conspiracy ideas and that type of thing, there's always the question, who's this they? You keep saying they're doing this, they're doing that. So for those of you that I know we have quite a few in the forum, this might be your they, this might be your answer. So sorry to interrupt there, but please continue.
No, I'll come back to who they are. I'll be most happy to go into detail who they are. What we're talking about here are the outfit that are carrying out on a street level. They are just being ordered to do these operations. They're often military personnel, with NATO, U.S. military, private contractors with connection into the Gladio network and so on, that are just carrying these things out on a street level. But when it comes to that we're talking more of the shadow government, a world shadow government that I can come into more detail.
Sure.
Nowadays, like I said, you can rent a crowd. There's a website. It's an LA-based company called Crowds on Demand, where you can go in and rent a crowd. If you need a rally, a demonstration, a riot, fans for a pop star, a politician, crowd in a TV studio, whatever you need, rent a crowd. They will even help you with the script if you need a script or whatever it is you want demonstrations against or for or whatever. They will help you. Crowds on Demand. Then you have crisis actors, which multiple companies nowadays that will supply you with crisis actors. And these crisis actors, what they are people, most of the time, very poor actors, because all of the good actors have been taken and used in commercials and films and so on. So they need to use people that are not easily recognizable. And so they get left, they have to deal with the leftovers. So these crisis actors are there to be interviewed or lie and look dead or wounded on the ground with a bit of ketchup on top and so on. There are companies called Crisis Cast. You got crisis-solution.com. You got crisis-actors.org. And also there's a company where you can rent dead bodies, dapper cadavers. They're called slim bodies. I think that is what they're called. Very lifelike nowadays. Sure. The military uses them as well. I mean, they look the thing, I tell you. Some of these bodies are even where there's like robots inside, engines inside that will make limbs move up and down. And some of them you can even operate on. You cut them up and their body fluids, their intestines, all of it, but they're not real bodies. So you can rent that as well. Then these companies often supply pyrotechnics as well. If you need smoke bombs, whatever. All of this is for crisis simulations or anti-terror drills. That is what they call them, security drills and so on. Mm-hmm. But you can also rent mourners. There's a company called mourner.com. Rentamourner.co.uk. Wow. And there's similar companies in the US where you can rent mourners for fake funerals. Or if you were a very hated individual and wanted to look popular the last time before you say bye-bye to the cruel world, sure, you can have the whole church full with people that look sad and look like they knew you. So to set these things up, not difficult. What I would suggest is that since I've been able to predict so many of these ones, I would say that it seems like I'm onto something. And what I would suggest is what we're seeing is that it's actually the same small unit that is being transported from location to location, carrying out the exact same theme, using the exact same script, using the exact same people running around in SWAT team uniforms in Paris, as in Ottawa, as in Sydney, as in London, as in Stockholm, as in Copenhagen, as in Hamburg, and so on. The same in police uniforms, the same firefighter outfits, and so on. Because the thing is, just because somebody has a uniform on does not mean that they are the real thing.
Right.
And you will see that I would suggest, and I've got it partly confirmed by CIA whistleblower Chip Tatum, who was involved in false flag operations during his career. He was actually head of an ultra-secret hit team called Pegasus under the direct control of George Bush Sr., taking out at least 17 individuals in Western Europe. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
He was also one of the pilots in the Iran-Contra scandal and so on. He is the closest to a real James Bond that there is. And I've spoken to him several times. I used to have my website on his server and so on. He's now trying to redeem everything he's done because he's been involved in a lot of ugly stuff. And I keep getting the question, but if these things are real, if they use crisis actors and so on, why don't we see whistleblowers step forward? Mm-hmm. And Chip it's very, very simple. What you do is they have to sign confidentiality agreements beforehand. These agreements will have fine print, or maybe not fine print, saying if you even whisper a word, you will be sued from here to eternity.
Right.
They get very well paid. Money is not an issue. Chip said that when he was doing these type of operations or flying crews in to different countries and so on, he said he normally had between $25,000 and $250,000 on him. Wow. To pay off people at the airports, customs, whatever was needed. The cash was there. Mm-hmm. Cash, not a problem in these areas. And then if you have bodyguards, you also have controllers of the group. You try to keep it to a smaller unit as possible. Transport it in army planes, sometimes C-130s from NATO Air Force Base or American Air Force Base, and so on, from country to country. They are always, as far as I've been able to find out, part of NATO, or they have some kind of a security agreement with NATO. So these countries that are being attacked from the inside, it's not by coincidence that it's happening in exactly these countries, and it's just going around and around and around in a circle. Right. The same. But then what Chip said was, if there is a problem and you feel like there's mutiny coming up, or somebody who wants to take a step out and has second thoughts, what you do is you just gather the group, and then you bring in somebody's grandmother and just kill her in front of the group, or beat up or chop the head of somebody's dog or something like that. And he said that's very normally that takes care of it. I mean,
so
fear is
very
their tool.
cult mob behavior, basically.
It is totally the same. It is totally the same. Mm-hmm. So it's you control by fear. You have the carrot and the stick. Right. Take this. You will have a short fame thing. You can even, if you're doing well, we will just use you again and again. I mean, I've got multiple examples of the same crisis actors appearing in 3 or 4, sometimes 5 different occasions. Just another wig, add a little weight and different lenses, and boom, there you go. Here's another one. So let's get back to Las Vegas.
Sure.
So the thing is, this one I find a bit tricky here, because I haven't seen so much before when they mix the footage, which I believe happened here. I've been contacted by so many people and some of them I find reliable, that are saying that people got actually killed here, because many times they don't. They're just staged event, right, like a film set, where instead of them making a commercial for Coca-Cola, the product that they're selling is terror, right, that is aimed to spread out through global media that they control. We're back to they control to a large extent. But here there's especially one video, one of the few videos that you see. It is the cell phone is held vertical, and the reason they hold them vertical, I would suggest, is because then it makes it much more difficult for someone like myself to see things, like where's the phone pole, right, where's the tree, and so you can exactly pinpoint where they are and so on. Mm-hmm. But here you will see it's vertical, and it goes from side to side to side to side during the shooting. But there's no screaming, there's no panic. Mm-hmm. Some people are still standing up. One woman is standing up pointing, even though, she's in the line of fire with heavy artillery, Right. And there's another guy who stands up with a beer in his hand and gives the finger up towards the hotel and so on. Mm-hmm. Possible, but so we look at that one and we see, are there 22,000 people being filmed here, and these people we see here are just in the front line? Mm-hmm. No. You see a handful of people, I would suggest maybe 50, 60 individuals that are there, well lit, and the light comes from a different direction than from the stage.
Sure. Yep.
You said before the light went on, so the light and the shadow should come from the stage. Right. Here, the lighting is slightly different.
It seems almost overhead.
And also, you will see that there's sort of like a small little wall or parting wall that are right behind this crowd. And they're sort of hiding, lying down, or standing up. Mm-hmm. But you will only see this amount of people. So who did this filming? Well, it just turned out that it's a casting director from Los Angeles, really? Working in Hollywood. Mm. So who would be the perfect guy to do the casting and then be part of the whole thing to keep it to a small unit? His name is Sean Hoff. He's got a CV, long CV, and you will see him on all kinds of, celebrity parties and stuff like that. So question to Sean, really?
Right.
Anyway, so if you compare that with, there's some other video footage where you see it's much more, the quality is much worse. The lighting comes from a different direction. And here you see people that looks like they're actually running, falling over, panicking. Mm-hmm. I would suggest, if anything is real, I would suggest that could be real.
Right.
Then you have other video footage from back behind the crowd and to the left, near a building. And for quite a few minutes beforehand, somebody's just standing filming absolutely nothing. I mean, if you are at a concert, wouldn't you focus on the stage or friends around you?
Right.
But here it's just like not really doing anything, but at the same time covering the area. And here you will see people start moving away before the shots are starting to fire. Mm-hmm. There's also a video from the 48th floor where people are saying, what's going on down there? What's happening? Why are they lying down? The band is still playing.
Really?
Or they have the exact same song inside their hotel suite. I don't know. Right. That's possible.
So you can't see the band. You can just hear the music, basically. Is what
you can see the stage. You can see people. I mean, it's in a wave. It's the same distance as from where he was shooting. I don't know, but sometimes you have to mistrust these videos as well because they are often part of the whole setup. Mm-hmm. Then you have the victims. And you know, there's a psychological term, a phenomena called duping delight, where it's just like if you're playing poker and you're sitting with a good hand and you're trying to bluff, and then suddenly you start laughing. You know, it's the same type here. With sometimes when people know that they're lying and manipulating you, getting away with it. The face will subconsciously start smiling. Right. It's called duping delight. It's a phenomenon. They're not aware of that they're doing it. But you will see here so many videos of alleged terror victims and where people are standing saying, oh, ISIS cut the head of my dad. It was so horrific. And they're smiling, you know, or my best friend just got shot. I was crawling across bodies and there was blood everywhere, and they're smiling. Right. I've been in war zones. I've been many different accident sites and so on. When people are hurt or shocked, they don't make any sense at all. They're pale or sweating. They're hysterical or totally quiet. The last thing they are very cold and then I've never ever seen anyone smiling in a real situation. Right. Because it's not funny. It's awful. It is awful. But here we see it again and again, people smiling. And you see, for instance, there's one woman. This is where you can see on the news, they report only 24 wounded. So that's when the number was 24 up to 515, meaning that it's quite early. And it's possibly 2 dead, 24 wounded. Okay, so she then starts saying that, they helped me throw somebody in the back of my car and we went to the hospital and smiling. She's smiling. She's just experienced a horrific event, smiling. Then you have the two twin sisters, really cute one, where one was shot, I think, in the lung and the other one was shot in the hip. The one that was shot in the hip is not even in bed. I mean, but she's showing up that she has a Band-Aid on. So that's really good when you've been shot with a hollow point bullet. Right. And both of them smiling, big smiles like this. Then you have another guy who, there's this not Brian Claypool. I think his name is Mike Cronk or something like that. He tells this story about how his friend was being shot. And many of these people, you will see these alleged eyewitnesses are connected to media. You will see that again. I'm going to come back to that. But anyway, he goes back and he visits his friend in hospital. The guy has just undergone severe surgery. He was hit 3 times in the chest. This is the guy, 3 bullet holes on that distance. I mean, you just can't do it. Right. Okay, so anyway, he's lying there. He's looking really great. You look at the medical equipment on the wall, not connected. Okay, there's drip. It's not connected. Wow. So are these conspiracy theories, or is it like, oh, come on, right? This is just not real. Then you got another one, a woman who was shot in the leg. Well, she shows you a small little Band-Aid on the shin, the front of her leg. Then you got another one who's being interviewed, a black guy who's said to have been shot in the neck. He's being interviewed standing up, doing fine. And he says, well, the bullet is still here. And please, can you give me a handkerchief because I feel I have to cry. And then he cries a bit like this, no tears. Still with the bullet lodged in his shoulder, not showing any sign of pain or anything like that. What I'm saying is something absolutely bizarre is going on.
Right.
Then you have another girl, then very rarely named these witnesses. But this girl, she's standing together with a guy and they're talking, and she's very cold the way she describes the whole thing. Well, there were bodies everywhere. We were crawling. There were blood and people were falling, and so no emotion whatsoever.
Right.
And then it turns out that she has recently been on Dr. Phil. Like, when I looked, what I found when it comes to these ingredients in these alleged, or what I call therapies, are that when it comes to eyewitnesses, there's an incredible percentage of these alleged eyewitnesses that have some kind of connection to media, to film or theater, or the government. They have some kind of direct connection to one of these three. When the alleged truck attack happened in Stockholm some months ago, I managed to find 24 witnesses. Do you know, like if you go around in global media and Swedish media and TV, radio, and you just check out who did actually see something or claim to have seen something. Out of 24, I found in total 24. How many do you think had some kind of connection to one of these three: media, film, theater, or government? What would be a normal percentage?
Realistically normal, none, but I would say probably at least 20, 22, 23.
No, 21.
Okay.
So you were close, but I mean, it would be in any crowd, if you like walk down the street and they're like a crowd of 24 people that see something.
Right.
What would be the chance? There would be somebody that cleans the street. There would be a plumber. There would be an officer. There would be 15 housewives. There would be like somebody selling glasses, these type of things. 21 out of 24 is a high percentage,
right?
And then when you see it being repeated, when the London bridge attack happened, more or less all of the witnesses that were just passing on the bridge at night at that time were connected to media. When the attack then happened in Paris, outside the Notre Dame church, same there. Media, and then the one that were interviewed was a former NATO chief of information.
Right.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
And here, many of these that are being interviewed are either, I would say, crisis actors or high profile within media. You have several of there's one that is sort of like a zillionaire, Dan Belsinger or something like that is his name, where you just see there's plenty of videos on YouTube, his normal lifestyle, like with yachts and guns and girls everywhere and parties and helicopters and private jets and so on. So the question is, what are we looking at? I'm still confused here because it's like there's also signs of multiple shooters.
Right.
There seem to be shooters from different towers. There seems to have been shooters from the Mandalay Bay Hotel, but not where we've been told.
Right.
There's also what could appear as shooters from the building to the left. If you stand behind the crowd, to the left. There's what looks like firing from inside this building, but if that is just a flashing light or not, I'm not sure. It also seems like that there could have been shooters inside the crowd. There's especially one guy in a service uniform, or sort of like a security type of uniform, that looks like he's firing into the crowd. And then there's some kind of airborne helicopter or drone thing above the hotel, where you can see a spotlight going down and you can see underneath it like machine gun fire going on.
Crazy stuff.
So,
and Yeah, there's so many things. I'd like to ask you about some of the aftermath stuff, but what you're talking about before with the London shootings and or the Paris shooting, that type of thing. Um, I'm really glad you're bringing these things up because I don't even know about these things, and us in America, we see the American attacks or whatever every so often, and we don't really realize that this is not just a local thing, and you are looking into all of them all over the place. And the ones in your neck of the woods, we almost never hear about. Do you think that that's intentional, that we don't care or we don't ever hear about them, or do you think it's just us being Americans?
I tell you, I think you got quite a big responsibility to get informed because no disrespect,
No, you're
but
absolutely right.
the U.S. military is the terror tool of the world. It is your nation is the bully in the world who are the ones starting all of these wars. Not saying that it's the U.S. that are doing it. I'm saying that the world shadow government that are behind the New World Order, are using the world in different ways. And the financial center is in the old city of London. The religious center is in the Vatican, and the military center is in Washington, D.C. And these three centers, everything is then being circulated in between, everything from arms, drugs, gold, minerals, pedophile trafficking, organ trafficking, oil. All of these things are used in between these three centers. But the U.S. Military is being used as the enforcer, this brutal enforcer of this very, very ruthless elite that are just there to totally control and destroy the world for their own greed. So people in uniform, and especially in the US and in NATO, nowadays NATO has turned from a defense organization into an absolute terror organization as well. So it's the combination of these two forces are very, very dangerous to the rest of the world. And so I'm always trying to reach people in uniform, police uniforms, SWAT team uniforms, military uniforms, trying to reach them, reach out to them and make them hopefully open their heart to this type of information, because they are being used, they're totally being used in a very, very ugly game where it's called freedom, it's for freedom and democracy, absolutely obvious. There is nothing that has anything to do with freedom and democracy or liberty or anything like that. When they are sent out to war, if I speak directly to them, when you're sent out to war, it is for oil, minerals, pedophile trafficking, drugs. That is the thing, power. The reason why these countries are targeted has nothing to do with dictators that should be taken out or absolutely not. It's a matter of taking over the central banks of these countries, or minerals, golds, or get strategic positions or pipelines, or there's a totally different agenda. And you, the normal soldier, is just there to carry it out for them. Do you know, like hitmen for the mafia? It's the same thing. And these are people that are signing up because they believe in what they're doing. They believe they want to do good. They believe that they want to be part of making this world a better place. And instead they end up killing, raping, torturing people from innocent countries that have absolutely nothing to do with these things, except living in a country that possibly have oil or plutonium or something like that. So the thing is to inform yourself and then get out, because the thing is also that when you look at how these, for instance, you look at how the president says, well, we salute you and you're in uniform, go out there and be brave and get blown to pieces and so on for your nation. It's honorable. Well, what happens when you come home? You will be treated like absolute dirt, absolute crap. How come so many of the homeless people in the US are veterans?
Right.
How come there are more people veterans killed by suicide than in active duty, because they've done horrific stuff that they were ordered to do. Yeah. How come that it can take up to 6 years for you to get just the benefits that you were promised? You know, is that loyalty from the Supreme Commander? I think absolutely not. That you are cannon fodder being used to carry these things out. They have no respect. You're just an empty uniform, and the minute they don't need you anymore, chop, chop, you're out. Same with generals and so on that are starting to become a threat. You know, the more powerful these military individuals, the more skilled they are, well, they're just next online. So,
right. I'd like for you to touch briefly on like the aftermath of this, because we've got pictures now of inside of the hotel room. We've got pictures of his body where, you know, there's the blood spilled out and the bullets are sitting on top of the blood and they have no blood on them, it seems like. And the fact that they're even releasing pictures at all. I mean, after, Osama bin Laden, when he was killed, they supposedly dumped his body in the ocean on the way back and didn't release any pictures because they were too graphic or sensitive. And this is like still an open investigation, which is very unorthodox for them to be releasing pictures at this point. What do you think the reason is for them to be getting into that already?
Well, just like you described, these photos cannot be trusted. They don't even look like the individual. There's not this 13 on his tattooed on his throat that they say that the other guy has. The other guy, there's the same photo that we were being showed. The police right away gave out the address. Stephen Paddock on that address turns out to be a totally different individual. The girlfriend, this Philippine girlfriend, is a lot younger on the photo we're being shown than the one that they are then taking in for questioning. It's like at least 10, 15 years difference. Then you have, just like you say, it said that he committed suicide. Okay, but his foot is in under one of the guns. So he must have sort of sat with his legs straight on the floor and then shot himself. Right. And then you see it's a gruesome image, but there's only one. And once again, it is said that he had shot all of these hundreds of rounds out the window. And still, just like you mentioned, the picture we see here is that his head is there. There's a big pool of blood. And then the empty shells on top of the blood. Right. Should have been totally the opposite way. So that just gives it away right away that you can't trust that photo. It's a staged photo. Absolutely not true. And you look into the hotel suite, the hotel room, the way the weapons are spread out. Also, the way that I always look for obelisks and pyramids where people are being taken out or these operations are carried out, they are there, right, or they will get erected. I mean, they're in Memphis, Tennessee, where King was killed, in Dallas, in Stockholm, and wherever these assassinations are taken out, there are very strong Freemasonic symbolism. And here, oh my God, right in front of this massive, massive pyramid, right, with a big obelisk right in front. I mean, and this whole arena where the killing was taking place is right in front, like an altar in front of this pyramid with the all-seeing eye on top. So, and there's so many things occult around this whole thing as well. So it's multi-layered.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's so much out there that we haven't even touched on, and I'm sure there's going to be way more to come in the coming weeks. But we obviously can't do it all in an hour and a half, but Ole, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy and it's a lot later there than it is here. So thanks for coming on and chatting. And if you could just take a minute to tell people where they can find out more about you and all the great stuff that you've got going on.
My website is lightonconspiracies.com. I'm a one-man band because I never get involved with organizations or groups or political things because these areas get so easily infiltrated and taken over. So I'm not paid by anyone. I've spent some 30-odd years doing this. So if anybody would like to make an exchange of energy in what I'm trying to accomplish here, Then I've got donation buttons. I've got multiple books on Amazon. I've got Steemit, Patreon, my newsletter, my membership area, and so on. This is the way I have a way of making an income to support my family. So what I do is I travel around a lot, going on location where these things happen, hopefully as soon as possible, so I stand face to face with these individuals that are involved and do everything I can to expose it. I also go to conferences all over the place and private meetings everywhere I can. And anyone in the military or police or whatever that maybe would like to invite me for private meetings off the record, because so many people in uniform are getting very concerned about what's going on. Anything like that, please contact me. I'll be most happy to come there. Frontline, wherever, I'll be there if needed. So with that said, anything I can do to help the world, I'm willing to do it.
Absolutely, and I certainly applaud your efforts. You're doing way more than than myself or any of my listeners are doing to expose this stuff. So it's fantastic, and you're a great resource. And thank you so much for coming on. If you ever, if anything else comes up, you're more than welcome to come here and have a platform to share what's going on in the world. Absolutely. So thanks for coming on, Ole. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end, and I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Ole Dammegard as much as I did. There was so much more to this conversation that we touched on in the bonus episode that I feel barely even touched the tip of the iceberg that is Ole's well of knowledge. But we got into so many crazy topics that we didn't have time to get into in the first hour and a half. So again, if you want to hear that, you can go join the Downers Club right now for just $1 and get access to not only my extended interview with Ole, but many hours of bonus content that we've been putting out and access to the exclusive Downers Club Facebook group. So go check that out at tsidpod.com/support, and I guarantee that you won't be disappointed. And if you are, it's 4 quarters. Big deal. In addition to that, as always, please go subscribe to and review the show on iTunes. That's always helpful. Like, share, and follow the show on Facebook at fb.com/thesystemIsDown. And go follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TSIDpod. Do all of that, and I'll be back here again first thing next week with some more craziness for you to soak up and enjoy. Until then, question everything and staying comfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.